That there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
The political showdown between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump was nothing short of a spectacle, one that exposed the raw divide between traditional British politeness and Trump's unapologetic, no-nonsense style. As tensions reached a boiling point, Starmer, who's known for his measured and diplomatic approach, found himself uncomfortably in the hot seat, while Trump ruthlessly pressed him on issues like free speech, political strategy, and past remarks. The exchange, already fraught with high stakes, quickly became a revealing, intense confrontation, with Trump making it clear that he wasn't going to let Starmer off easy, forcing the Labour leader to fight to maintain his composure and credibility. The contrast between the two leaders couldn't have been more stark. And what transpired wasn't just a debate, it was a political spectacle that left Starmer visibly rattled and put his leadership under the microscope.
To free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Yeah, really? You're very proud of locking people up for putting Facebook posts up?
Well, Starmer can say it.
Yeah, but he talks absolute
That's what I mean. He can say it, but he's locking people up for Facebook posts.
He's lying. He's locking people up for Facebook posts. We'll come on to it later. Mike Ainsworth, the MP, went and appealed his case yesterday, which a lot of people are asking me, how has he got an appeal so quickly? Was there any intervention from the government?
Why is he still drawing his £91,000 salary?
And why has he managed to get an appeal through so quickly, which has now meant that he doesn't go to prison, which means that he doesn't necessarily have to quit his job?
Reactions to the interaction between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump were sharply divided, with some viewing Starmer as a politician caught in a web of indecision, desperately trying to play both sides without fully committing to either. Trump's supporters, on the other hand, wasted no time accusing Starmer of bending over backwards to appear aligned with Trump while betraying his true beliefs. This wasn't just another routine press conference. It was a flashpoint in the larger debate over the political direction of both the UK and the US. The exchange raised serious questions about Starmer's consistency and leadership, casting doubt on whether he has the resolve to lead as firmly as he claims. One key moment in the conference saw Starmer go out of his way to praise Winston Churchill, attempting to link himself to the former Prime Minister's legacy of strength and national pride, particularly in the eyes of Trump, who has long expressed admiration for Churchill. But there was a catch. Just a few years ago, Starmer had openly criticized Churchill's colonial legacy, calling for a more nuanced interpretation of his history. So what changed? Was this a genuine shift in perspective, or simply another example of political maneuvering aimed at gaining favor? The optics don't inspire confidence, and they leave voters questioning whether Starmer stands for anything beyond convenience.
But I think they're getting it wrong. The people of this country saw through all of it.
Well, I mean, I think it was a good day for Keir Starmer, actually. I think, it was, in some ways, as you say, Mike, we who know about his actions at home can contrast that with how he was presented abroad. It was politics 101. It was, masterfully done. For instance, when he was talking about, it's great to see the bust of Winston Churchill back. Like you say, I mean, this, of course, is the man who removed the portrait from Margaret Thatcher from his own office.
Well, he removed the one of Churchill as well. I mean, he said he didn't like looking at portraits because he didn't like the way their eyes followed him around the room. I mean, the bloke is a compulsive liar.
This sudden shift in Starmer's rhetoric didn't go unnoticed. Donald Trump, ever keen to call out political hypocrisy, likely viewed it as a calculated move rather than a genuine gesture. The optics were damning. What was presented as a heartfelt tribute to Churchill came off more as a desperate attempt to ingratiate himself with Trump. To many, it seemed like Starmer was willing to abandon his principles for political convenience, raising serious doubts about his authenticity and commitment. When Starmer sent a letter from King Charles inviting Trump to the UK, the move sparked immediate controversy. On the surface, it appeared to be standard diplomatic protocol, just another routine courtesy exchanged between world leaders. But for others, it looked like a strategic play, an attempt to appeal to Trump's base and send a signal to the international community that Britain was open to engaging with the former president despite his controversial legacy. This wasn't just diplomacy, it was political positioning at its most transparent. And the question remains, is Starmer willing to compromise his values for the sake of political gain?
Oh my God, did you hear that? A letter from the King presented to the President of the United States inviting him round for a second state visit. Was that not the most toe-curlingly embarrassing thing you've ever heard? The tummy tickling that's been going on from a letter from the King. I mean, as a tactic to deploy to get the President on side, it worked, I guess. The flattery worked, but man alive, that was, that was toe-curling.
This wasn't just a routine diplomatic gesture. It was a calculated move to position Keir Starmer as a statesman, someone willing to engage even with controversial figures like Donald Trump. But did Trump see it as a genuine outreach? Or did he recognize it for what it likely was, a political maneuver? Given Trump's keen sense for spotting insincerity, he probably viewed Starmer's actions as an attempt to play both sides of the political spectrum, leaving the public to question the Labour leader's true motivations. The situation became even more revealing when J.D. Vance confronted Starmer over free speech, quickly exposing Starmer's weakness. Vance, a vocal defender of free expression, didn't hold back, calling out the erosion of free speech in the UK and pointing to the growing restrictions on online expression. He highlighted the alarming trend of arrests for social media posts that wouldn't even be considered criminal in other countries. Instead of addressing the issue directly, Starmer tried to deflect, insisting the UK still upheld free speech while brushing off concerns about the crackdown on online activity. His reassurances fell flat, especially in the context of the UK's increasing censorship under the controversial Online Safety Bill, which, while aimed at regulating harmful content, has been widely criticised for stifling free speech. When you contrast the UK's growing restrictions with the US, where free speech is constitutionally protected, Starmer's claims simply don't hold up. For someone like Trump, who has repeatedly criticized censorship, this only reinforced his frustration with Starmer's evasive approach. Yet another attempt to sidestep uncomfortable truths.
And when he says he doesn't want to impinge on American citizens, American companies, that's exactly what he wants to do. The online harms bill says that they will clip the wings of places like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. That's what it says.
But more than that, he's locking up our citizens for innocent comments, or for literally just having opinions. I mean, he asserted himself a tiny bit there. Well done. I was talking to a body language expert who said, just look at Trump, sitting there, legs apart, power pose.
He's got his legs crossed.
Cowering, legs crossed like a lady. Sorry, but like a lady.
Like a lady.
Yeah. No, like a lady.
Yeah.
I mean, well, let's not go there.
Let's not.
No. Absolutely. It was clear who was in control. And yes, Starmer spoke up. Oh, we have free speech in the UK. What does it mean? It's like going, we had Shakespeare in the UK.
But he only spoke up because he saw Macron do it. And you can tell that he was coached by whoever it is that coaches him to do an interruption, because that's what Macron did. Macron did it with a bit more style, to be fair. Make sure you touch him, because that's what Macron did. You know, make sure you kind of,
I know, the whole
smile
thing was
all the time.
very staged.
It was just fake, and it was staged, and it was pretty sickening, actually.
If Keir Starmer had dared to bring up the state of free speech in the UK, Donald Trump's response would have been swift and unapologetic. Known for his blunt criticism of censorship, Trump wouldn't have hesitated to call Starmer out on what he sees as dishonesty. Always direct, never one to shy away from uncomfortable truths, Trump would have pointed to the escalating issue of online censorship in the UK, sharply contrasting Starmer's claims of a thriving free speech landscape with the reality of rising arrests over social media posts. Trump's no-nonsense approach would have exposed Starmer's more careful, politically calculated stance for what it is, an attempt to dodge accountability. This stark difference between the two men's approaches highlights a deeper problem for Starmer, his inconsistency. Just a few years ago, Starmer was adamant that Trump's actions and rhetoric disqualified him from any sort of engagement, even going as far as saying he'd never invite Trump to dinner. Yet today, Starmer is extending an official invitation to Trump, backed by a letter from the king himself. This dramatic about-face raises serious questions about Starmer's credibility and his ability to stick to his principles, with many accusing him of rank hypocrisy.
So this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success. It was. His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecedented second state visit. He wants talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's
Yes.
really something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King. And
Keir Starmer's latest shift is more than just a policy reversal. It's a political tightrope walk that highlights the deep vulnerability at the heart of his leadership. Critics argue he's trying to appeal to moderate and even conservative voters, attempting to present a more pragmatic image. But this sudden about-face raises serious questions about his credibility and leadership. Is it a calculated strategy to broaden his appeal, or is it sheer political opportunism? Either way, it's impossible to ignore how this move undermines his previous positions. Donald Trump, with his notorious disdain for what he sees as political dishonesty and posturing, would likely have no patience for Starmer's carefully calculated moves. Trump's blunt, unfiltered style would cut through Starmer's politeness and scripted rhetoric, exposing what he would call false politeness and strategic maneuvering. Trump thrives on pointing out hypocrisy, and Starmer's shifting positions would give him ample material to publicly challenge. Such a confrontation wouldn't just put Starmer on the defensive, it would shift the public narrative, reinforcing Trump's image as a fearless political outsider who isn't afraid to confront any leader, no matter how powerful. For Starmer, a public clash with Trump could have devastating consequences for his leadership and the future of the Labour Party. His already fragile credibility could take a major hit, especially among voters who see his actions as more calculated than principled. Those who value consistency and authenticity, whether on the left or the center, could begin to see him as a politician who changes his message to suit the crowd, rather than a leader with firm convictions. In his attempt to be politically cautious and accommodating, Starmer risks alienating both his base and the centrist voters he's trying to win over.
But a lot of people are going, oh, you know, Starmer's going to be humiliated. They're sort of talking it down as if, you know, now Starmer's had some great, you know, a great day out because he wasn't humiliated. I mean, is that really the level of our Prime Minister now, that he's had a good day because he wasn't made fun of?
Well, maybe that is the level with Keir Starmer. Look, I think that these encounters are fraught with difficulty, and all I'd say is that, you know, a cautious thumbs up to the Chagos deal, the fact that Trump didn't criticise them over the EU, the fact that, yes, there was that encounter as you're showing on the screen there with JD Vance, but all in all, this was a pretty good day at the office for Keir Starmer. And look, he may change his mind by tomorrow, Donald Trump. There may be other future encounters, but overall, I think that they will be happy with how this visit went, given how important the meeting was and all the high stakes. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm sure that Labour will be happy with it, but unfortunately, you know, they also represent the nation, they represent the people, and I think this is what's wrong with politics in this country, is that politicians think that once they get in and once they get the power, it's all about whether they can stay there and whether they can impress each other and get patted on the back. I mean, the touching that was going on, you know, the sort of the fawning, it was just, you know, incredibly cringeworthy, it seems to me.
Trump's sharp response could serve as a stark reminder that Keir Starmer's consistency is far from as solid as he'd like to project. If Trump takes the opportunity to publicly call out Starmer's shifting positions, it could shatter his carefully constructed image as a trustworthy leader. Rather than coming across as a pragmatic statesman, Starmer risks looking like a politician willing to sacrifice his principles for political gain, and that perception could have serious ramifications for the Labour Party's chances in the next election. If voters start seeing Starmer's leadership as rooted in dishonesty or opportunism, Labour could find it difficult to regain their trust, which would play right into the hands of the Conservatives. How Starmer handles this interaction with Trump could very well define his leadership going forward, highlighting the fragile line between diplomacy and political strategy. Both leaders will likely adjust their approaches as the situation evolves, but in an era where authenticity is paramount, every decision will be scrutinized. This exchange is a blunt reminder that in the murky world of modern politics, the truth often gets lost in the shuffle.